Hi everyone, I am Simarpreet Singh and I am Senior Software Developer at Cybertron Technologies. So I have 4 years of experience in this field and I will be talking about basics of Angular today. So let's get started. So uh, I will be talking about what is Angular, AngularJS versus Angular, why to use Angular, pros and cons of Angular, and how to get started. So what is Angular? ये है क्या? What is Angular? Angular is application design framework, development and a development platform for creating efficient and sophisticated single page applications. So I think कहना क्या चाहते हो किसी को समझ नहीं आया होगा अभी तक. So basically let's get more details about it. It's a component-based framework for building scalable web applications. Uh, Everything is component in Angular, and it's a collection of well-integrated libraries that will cover a wide variety of features, including routing, form management, client-server communication, and more. So there are multiple. It's a framework, so it includes multiple modules inside of it, which covers all of the things like routing and form management and other things that we will talk about in upcoming slides. So it's also a suite of developer tools which help us to develop, build, and test and update our code. So basically, we can develop, we can build, we can test the code with the testing frameworks included in Angular, and we can update the code very easily. So AngularJS versus Angular. Uh, Most of the time we hear these two terms, what is AngularJS and what is Angular. So let's clear the confusion. So first of all, will talk about AngularJS. AngularJS, it was the first framework created by Google for internal use. Basically, the developers of Google were creating some platform, and they made a framework which was called AngularJS. They saw that it was very easy to create web applications with this framework. So it came out to public in 2010, you can say, and it offered two-way data binding, which was a brilliant approach to deal with the data. And there was no use of state management to do that. So it was very opinionated for well-defined structure. It was having a well-defined structure to which helps in maintain a code in a specific way. So it was opinionated by most of the developers, because other libraries and frameworks, people were having a freedom to develop things in a particular way, like freedom of placing files and folders in a particular way. So this Angular JS was not having a particular was having a particular data structure to define the files and folders. This folder contains this folder contains this. So it was opinionated, very opinionated in the community. Then came Angular. It was announced in 2014 and released in 2016. So it was basically complete rewrite of AngularJS from the scratch, and it uses TypeScript. So developers at Google thought that JS is creating a lot of problem because it was sometimes giving runtime errors, and TypeScript is something that is type safe. So you can have types in that, and it gives a type error when you are coding or building the code. So it was named Angular to avoid confusions in the community. So also these days you see sometimes on LinkedIn and other platforms that we are having these terms AngularJS and Angular, and we get confused what is Angular and what is AngularJS. So to avoid these confusions, they named it Angular. So it's still opinionated for well-defined structure, but it's also very famous. So why to use Angular? It's maintained by Google. That's a very good company. It has two-way data binding. That's a very good feature also. We will discuss it later. It uses TypeScript. It's type safe, no type errors in the runtime. So it has lazy loading. So lazy loading is a feature where uh, when we are making a request to a website, it doesn't load the whole website, it only loads what we want. So until or unless you need a particular feature, it doesn't load it from the backend. It will keep it on the backend, and when we click a button, it will load that feature. So it has inbuilt modules for routing, for forms, for HTTP clients, etc., and other things also. It supports internationalization. So if you want to make an application that supports French and English and German, three different languages, we can do it with internationalization. It has inbuilt tools for end-to-end testing and unit testing. So with the help of Karma and Jasmine, there are two tools that are provided inbuilt to do inbuilt and unit testing. So PWAs and cross-platform development. So you can develop progressive web apps and cross-platform mobile applications or desktop applications or iOS applications, Android applications, whatever you want, you can develop with Angular. It's very popular among developers. So all the developers in the community know what Angular is. It has a very good community support. If you get into an issue, you can just ask the community how to get out from it. Like you can ask it on GitHub, you can ask it on Stack Overflow, or you can ask in communities like Slack and everything. So what are pros and cons of Angular? Pros: it has reusable code. So in the introduction, we discussed that Angular is based on components. So when we use components, one component can be used in multiple ways. So if we are having an contact component or an item component, we can use that component in a different pages to reuse the code again and again. Well-defined file structure. So well-defined file structure helps us to make the code maintainable. So in future, if you leave the code and hand over the code to someone else, so the person having that code will easily understand what you did there. Cross-platform app development. So cross-platform app development with help of other tools like Electron and Ionic, you can develop desktop applications and mobile applications also. PWAs. Progressive web apps like Flipkart and other things can also be developed in Angular. Like if you open web.dev, it's a progressive web app. You can develop such sites in Angular also. Inbuilt tools. So it has multiple inbuilt tools for building, testing, and other things like we have Jasmine and Karma for testing. We have IVY engine for uh, uh, making the builds of the Angular. So Angular Universal. So Angular Universal helps Angular to run it on the server side. Like uh, all the conversion of JavaScript to HTML is done on the server, and you just get a static page to display to the user. So no load on the user end. Everything is done on the server. Angular Universal helps in that. So cons: it's not very good in terms of SEO. So like if we develop a single page application, it's not very good in terms of SEO. So you have to manage it using Angular Universal, but it's only to some extent. So it's very hard to learn because it has many inbuilt tools. You have to learn TypeScript, you have to learn the routing, you have to learn HTTP client and everything. So it's a little hard to learn than other frameworks. So if you can if you want to know more, you can visit angular.io that we have open in here. You can get started in here and you can see all the documentations if you want. So how to start? Let's get started. So getting started, first of all, you have to install Node inside your system. If you have installed Node, then it's very good. You can get started right now. You have to run these commands to get started. To install Angular CLI globally, CLI is basically a tool, command line tool, that will help you to generate the Angular application, to build Angular application, and to deploy it. So to install Angular CLI, you just need to run this command on displayed on the screen, npm install -g @angular/CLI. So it will load some things in the terminal, and it will install the Angular CLI globally. Then you can proceed to next step, that is creating a new app for yourself. For creating new app, you can just refer to this command, that is ng new. I will be creating a new application which has a name of dev create hyphen test. So you can use any name for your app, like my name, my app, or anything you want. So I am taking this name, dev create hyphen test. So we will run this command, ng new dev create hyphen test, and we will get a new folder uh, or directory, you can say, that's which has a name of dev create hyphen test. After that, we have to change the directory to dev create hyphen test. We will do cd dev create hyphen test, and we will get into that directory. After that, uh, you have a new file structure that will look like this. You can open that directory inside of VS Code or any other code editor that you use, and we will see a file structure like this. And if you run this command, ngser hyphen hyphen open, so it will open your uh, application in the browser. So in the browser, we can see we have this application open, and it will give you a new page, which is also very helpful. You can see some uh, commands over here to create new component, to add Angular material, to add PWA support. You can go through these uh, after this session ends. So then uh, then after getting started, I will be talking about how I have talked about installation, I think. Then I will be talking about files and folders, components and its part, life cycle of a component, properties and interpolation, and everything. So let's talk about it one by one. So files and folders, if you see the file structure, it's very uh, it's very maintained, you can say, in a particular format. You have a source folder, the basic code is inside the source folder. So inside the source folder, you have app folder where you do all the coding. And outside of app folder, you see the entry point of this app, that's index.html. And in index.html, you see the app root component, which is referred to this app component. So basically, first of all, the request goes to index.html, and it loads the app component inside of it. So there are other files which have a different meaning for everything, but we will be discussing more about only app, and how to get started with coding inside of the app, and how to add styles to the code. So the next step is component and its parts. So basically, if you see, everything is component inside of this application. So you see this app root. So app root refers to this component, uh, app component.html. So you are seeing all these things opened inside this browser, which they have written. And if you see the parts of the component, you see there are three parts. That's app component.html, app component.sass, app component.spec.ts, app component.ts. So this app component.spec.ts is for testing. We will not talk about it in this session because this session is about development, not for testing. So in app component.ts, we write the logical part. In app component.scss, we write the CSS part in a different way than CSS. I am using SCSS, which is CSS that's written in a different syntax or manner. I will talk about it later. So in HTML part, we see this is automatically generated from the Angular CLI. So this has the HTML part. If we can just go ahead and remove all the things, and I will add h1 hello world, and I will save it. So it will run something in the terminal, and I will see it's automatically refreshed. Hello world. Then let's talk more about app component.ts file, the TypeScript file. So basically, you see it has some parts inside of it. First line is import, that is just importing some things from the Angular core module, and uh, here is a component directive, uh, component decorator. Sorry, this decorator has three parts. There is a selector, there is a template URL, there is a style URL. So in the template URL, you have to mention which file is used as a template, like your HTML file, app component.html. So you have to write the URL for your template file, which is our this file. And in style URL, you have to mention the array of the styles that you want to include in this component. So we are including app component.sass. Here is the app component.sass, and in selector we have to mention a name for the selector by which our app will identify. We can say this is just like an HTML tag that we will use to display this component. Just like in index.html, you see we have app-root, which refers to this component, app component.ts, app-root. So when you add this component, your HTML gets rendered, just like we are having here, right? Let's move to the next topic. That's life cycle of a component. So basically, the life cycle is like the component gets created, it runs some life cycle methods, and then it get destroyed. So I will be talking about two life cycle hooks, but you can go to the Angular uh, documentation to know more about the life cycle. You can type here life cycle, and you will be getting these hooks. Okay, we will discuss about ng on init in this session. So let's talk about ng on init. So this component is basically a class, just like a JavaScript class, or you can say it's a TypeScript class, because TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript with types. So in TypeScript, we are just using this. Uh, it implements uh, on init. Yeah, when you implement on init, so it means it has to define the functionality, what happens on the component initializes. So if you see the error, it says property ng on init is missing. So you have an interface, you are implementing an interface inside of app component, but you have not defined that. So let's define it on init method. So yeah, like this. When you add ng on init, the component, the error gets resolved, and you can run any code in here. Let's do console log, break, let's save it, move to the demo, and press F12 in console. Yeah, you see hello world, right? From app component TS line number 12. Yeah, here it is. So this is the lifecycle method. So when the component destroys, it has a lifecycle ng on destroy. You can also try that, but I will not talk about in this session. So let's move to the next topic, properties and interpolation. Yeah, sure. So you see this title over here. When we create a variable inside a class, it's called properties. Let's create our own properties. Like my name is Simar. So I will create my name. Yes. So if I want to display this in my browser, I'm not able to display it right now. I'm saying hello world, but where is simmer? Okay. So let's go to the HTML part, and uh, believe me, it's very easy. I will say a p tag, and I will just put two curly braces. Inside this, I will say my name, just like suggested. So when I put here two curly braces and put my name, so it this method is called string interpolation. Like everything you write inside this gets interpolated from the component. When I save it and move to the next, I have simmer here. So let's increase size by a little bit. I will say 3. I think now it gets a little bolder. I can increase the size if you want. Yeah, it says simmer. Great. So whenever I change something in here, like I say Rohan, it changes with that because I'm using interpolation. Whenever the value changes in component, it changes in this file. Also, if you want to add something with it, like this, it's similar, you will say hi there. You can run basic JavaScript operations in here. So Rohan, hi there. Whatever you want to use, you can do that. You can also do basic operations like 2 plus 2. It should be equal to 4. Yeah, 4. So, or you can also run JavaScript methods like my name dot, you can say length 5 because it's Rohan, and other things also. So let's talk about next topic, designing with CSS and SAS in Angular. Okay, so for this we will be designing this h1 and h3 element. Cool. And yes, so whenever we talk about designing, we use this SAS file, app component.sas. Okay, so I'm just changing it to hello, and I will be using my name, and I will say, yeah, so that it says hello my name. Hello Rohan. Okay, so now I want that Rohan should be written on the side of hello. What I will do, I will put them in a div, make it easy, and I will add class like row. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's copy it. Yeah, we have copied it here, and still they are not here. Let's add styling to it. Okay, so dot, what was our class name? Row. We have to add styling to this row. We will add display text. What will it do is we'll add styling. They will be side to side. Okay, so we will see dot. Now we will add a little styling to this these h1 and h3 tags. So inside row we have h1 and h3. So we will write inside row h1, and its color should be blue, and h3, its color should be, let's say green. I know these are bad colors, but let's try. Yeah. So this is how we write sass, because we have an element with a class row. So inside of that element, we have h1 and h3. So we write it in a hierarchical order, just like the HTML. We have row, inside of that we have h1 and h3. This is how we write sass. Okay, then let's move on to the next topic, that is building and displaying components. So when we talk about components, let's create header and footer of a row of this component. So when we have to create a new component, we have to run the command ng generate component, and we have to pass the path of the component. So let's say we name it header. But one thing that I don't need the header inside of the root directory. I need it inside the component directory. So what will I do is I will write. So this way it will say tell the Angular CLI to generate a component inside components directory with the name of header. Let's try it. So here is inside app, we have a components directory, and inside of this we have a header, and it has header works. And yeah, then yes, so let's check out the ts file. It has app header as a selector, header.component.html as a template URL, and we have a style URL also. It refers to this file. So let's try to copy this and add this inside our HTML. Okay, cool. You see, header works. The header is here. Yes, and let's try to, yeah, change the header. So let's try to create something with this application. Let's name it h1. Okay, so we are here. The task list is here, and it's in the h1. Then what we have to do is we have a new component. We have created a new component. We have the header. We have the new file. Okay, let's now try to create a button inside of this header. We have, yeah, we'll create a div. Inside of that, we will take this header and we'll create add. Okay, yeah. So now to look at the output, we'll again go to this page. Yeah, we have task list, we have the add button in the header. Okay, so we have a task list, we have a button, and now we have to add design so that they are side by side. Let's add some design. uh, let's create div element. Sorry, we have to add design. The div, inside of div we have this h1, and then we have this button. Okay, so now what I need is I need them side by side. So I will say display flex. I will say h1. Yeah, let's keep h1 and h button in this way. Let's see what we have. Oh, we have this task list and we have this button, and button is getting expanded. Let's fix that. Let's decrease the font size, and button height is like 10 pixel will work. No, I think because I have zoomed it, so I'm getting this issue of designing. So let's keep it that way, and we will fix it by adding some design in the later part. So now they are side by side. Now we have to separate them apart. We can do align items, center, justify content, is between. It will work. Yeah, the button is here, the task list is here. So I think that works. Okay, so now I want uh, I have created a component header. So I think you understand how to create a header. Let's move to the next topic, which is data sharing in components. Okay, to do that, I will create new component that is just in the components directory. Let's create a new component called button. Okay, here is components, here is button. Let's write the button code inside of this. And we'll say text, and I will add this with interpolation from here. And in button HTML, I just had a button with a text. Okay, now let's try to add this inside of header instead of our own button. We need its selector, so let's check what the selector is. The selector is app button. Let's add app button. Okay, let's check what is. Yeah, now no change because I just added a new button and I named it as add. So I need to pass some data inside of it. I want that I add a custom text to it that should be displayed inside the button. So then I will create an input and output directive. So to do that, we have to just write, use the input decorator and button text, and it should be a string. You have to define the type of that also. It's giving an error that it has not been initialized. So what we can do is that we can just use this exclamation mark to remove that error, that it will have a value in the future. It says that. So, or you can just uh, add a default value of empty string and remove this full. Yeah. Now With input directive, we can accept the inputs from the other components, like the parent component of this button component. Let's go to the parent component, and oh, I forgot to rename this text here. Let's do it in HTML also. Yeah. Now we have to go to the header HTML, and here we will use these brackets, and the name of that directive that we input directive that we made, that's button text. And what text do you want? That's to add. Oh, we need to pass it like a string. Yes. Now this button text will go inside the button app button in here, and it will be displayed here from here, because it accepts input from the parent, and it will be assigned to button text, and the button text will be displayed in here. Let's try to see. Yeah. So if I add something like my button, and it will also be like my button. Cool. So you see how to add data to the component, to the button component. So this way you can add data to any component. So we will do add, because this is an add button. Okay, then let's move to the next topic, that is handling events. So in this part, I will tell you how to handle the events. So I want that on click of this button, I need to handle some event. Like I need to display something in console, I need to display an alert or something like that. So let's add click functionality to the button component, this component. And to do that, yeah, to do that, we just like in JavaScript, we have on click listeners, we have click listeners here. We just need to add round brackets, and all these are the listeners. All you want to do is just add click equals to what function do you want to call. I will say display message. It's my function that I want to call. And so this tells me that display message is not defined, and no, doesn't exist in this button component class. So I need to define it like this. Just like this, in button component class, you have to make a new function that's display message, and you can perform all your uh, functionality inside of it, like console.log, hello, I am from button. Okay, let's try to test it in the browser. I think I didn't save the button component class. Yeah, let's now try. Yeah, if you can see in the console, when I click, you get a number 3, and it increments because it's printing the same thing. Let's try to change something with this button click. Okay, now let's take a variable that's I equal to 0, and inside of this, with this button click, I say I plus plus. Okay, one thing to note here, we cannot use I just like this inside of any inside of its functions of its class, we have to use this keyword. I think this is basic JavaScript concept, so you might know this. So I am incrementing its own I and displaying it on the console, initializing with 0. Let's try this. It 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. You handle the button clicks. So now I want that this button click is not should not be handled here. I want to share this button click to the outside parent, and to we can also share the data in this way, like from this button to the outside its parent component. So I want that. So what to do in that case? That I will create an output. Will take an output directive, and we will name it event or button click, and we will initialize it with new event emitter. So from its name, it's clear that it emits an event. So it when you click on it, I will emit an event to its outside environment or its parent. You can also say that. So one thing to notice it is that whenever we are using this input and this output, we are also adding some new things uh, in the import of this file. So all these things that are being added are added automatically by this code editor. If your code editor doesn't support this automatically adding of these things, you have to add them by your own. So I will remove this for now. And on clicking of this add button, I have to emit something that this button is clicked. So I will just say this dot button click dot emit. It will notify that this button is clicked. Okay, so when you if you save this and run the code, it will not do anything. You have to write the code now in the parent. In the parent, you see you have made a custom handler for this app button. Okay, you have a custom event handler. The event name is button click. Right now you have to write your own code, what you want to run in here. Like we can just say mm, button click or add task, just like that. So here now this will say you don't have add task in the header component. I will add this inside the header component in here, and we just console.log, save this, save this, header component.html, and yes, I will rename this to this function name is click handler now, because I am not displaying any message now. So this is click handler. So let's go through it again. What we did is, inside of this button click component, I created a new event emitter which will tell its parent that the button is clicked. How it will tell the parent? Because on clicking of this button, this click handler function is called. This click handler function will trigger this event emitter, and it will emit something, emit a message, emit an event. So this button click will tell its parent, because its parent is also using, its parent is header, and it's also using this button click. This will pass on this event to this uh, component that we created by ourselves, and it will try to execute this method that we called here. And from this method, we will see we added the code console log task edit. Let's try it. It's a little complex, I know, but you will get it by practice. Let's try to click task edit, task edit again, task edit again. Yeah, you are right. So this is how we make our custom event handlers for our custom components. Let's talk about the other things in the next session. Thank you for now. I am Simarpreet Singh. You can follow me on this Twitter channel. Thank you.